So I prepared the notes for this video over a month ago, but I've been chickening out from making it because it's like a huge case and I don't know, I just got nervous. Anyway, okay. So tonight I want to talk about O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown Simpson, aka the Juice. So I'm gonna go a little bit into the backstory. This is such a famous case that I'm sure all of you already know the context, and then I'll get into the astrology charts. I'm gonna look at OJ's chart and Nicole's chart and kind of how they cross over each other. So yeah, tonight's true crime video is about O.J. Simpson and the murder of Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman in 1994. So I want to talk about a little bit of what it led up to this and just a brief overview of the events, since I'm sure all of you already know, but in case you were like born under a rock or I don't know, in the last decade or something, maybe you don't know about this case. So it was very controversial. Renthal James Simpson, known as OJ or the Juice, was a famous football star. It's said that he was scouted straight out of high school and he started right in the NFL. So he was drafted in 1969. He was a round one pick, and I think he was like already 212 pounds in high school, so he's a big guy. Yeah, so he was a pretty famous football star to begin with. He had a lot of stature. This actually plays into the story, but in a different way. So he was a running back, and I don't really know what that means. Okay, I think he took the ball and went yards with it. See, I watched this when I was younger, but I was so little I don't remember. But anyway, I researched this case, but it was like a month or so ago. So anyway, I don't think this is a high impact position, but I think it is, because I think similar to the quarterback, he would get tackled. So he probably suffered some head injuries and frontal cortex collisions, I'm sure. So this, I think, plays into it, and I'll tell you why later. So OJ is a Cancer. He was born in July 9th, 1947. Nicole is actually a Taurus. Yeah, she was born, let's get her birthday, May 19th, 1959. So she's about, I can't do math, she's 12 years younger than him. Yeah, she's way younger than him. Not that that matters, but okay. So he was already a famous football star, and then he started getting so famous because he was good. He started doing commercials and TV and even movies. I don't know if you guys grew up in the 90s like I did, but I don't know if you watched like the Naked Gun series. It was like a silly humor movies, but he appeared in those and a lot of other stuff. So he wanted to kind of dabble in acting, but he was really a football star, and he became super wealthy. So I don't know, I can't remember what year he met Nicole in, but they married, I wrote this down, they married from like 1980 to 1992, so I think they divorced 2 years before the murder. Okay, married in 1985, so 7 years of marriage, divorced in 1992. He met Nicole, and they married and had 2 children, but it was a very rocky, abusive relationship, so it was kind of a mixed bag with him. Nicole reported to her friends and family that he was abusing her, and she made many phone calls to the police about this, and even kept like evidence in a safety deposit box about in the event of her death. So she was clearly afraid of him, but she also reported that her wedding day was the happiest day of her life, and she often told friends that were close to her that she was very happy with OJ. Very much much in love with him, and people could see they had kind of this back and forth tumultuous relationship where they were super in love and all over each other, but then super jealous and toxic at the same time. So it was kind of a mixed bag. They get divorced, and basically he just has a lot of ego and is jealous, and I feel like it was premeditated because he wore the gloves and all this stuff. But anyway, at the time, I don't know if she was really seeing Ron Goldman or if they were just friends, but she went out to dinner after one of her daughter's recital. They had a girl and a boy, and I forget what kind of recital, dance recital or something. They went out to celebrate. I feel like OJ either saw them at the restaurant and got jealous, or he was already planning this ahead of time. Either way, he came upon her house like late in the evening. I think it was around 10 o'clock or later, and he saw her and Ron in the backyard and let himself through the gate and ended up stabbing them both to death. If you're not into like gory details, and skip over this part, all of you probably know this already, but he stabbed them multiple times. He cut Nicole's throat so deep that her head was almost severed. So it's a very bloody scene. He just left her on the porch to bleed out, basically. She might have died before he left, I don't know. But he left her on the back porch for her kids to find. I don't think her kids found her, but like they could have. So that was like, what the hell? Forensics said from like the pattern of wounds and where the bodies were placed that it looked like Ron really like fought for his life. He had a lot of stab wounds in his hands, like defense wounds. But OJ was a huge person, and he cornered Ron in like the corner of the garden. I don't think it was like a cement wall. So he didn't have anywhere to go, and he stabbed him to death, sadly. And it was pretty brutal. Like, they both died really awful, brutal deaths. The reason I wanted to mention his like football career and stuff is, I don't know if you ever guys watched the movie Concussion with Will Smith, but it's a really good movie, and it's about this head injury that football players can get, and really any athlete that deals with concussions or high impact to their craniums. Is that the word? Heads. It actually, this kind of like specific brain damage can cause like aggression, and it can cause mental illness, and it can cause people to like snap in really violent ways. And they've documented a lot of football players. There's even one guy that like donated his body to science because he wanted them to look at his brain to figure this out. So I thought back to that, and I was like, you know what, I bet that could have been a contributing factor. He already had some issues, and they would fight a lot in their relationship, but I wonder if what drove him to kill her, what might have contributed to him snapping, could have been some of that brain injury he might have endured. So that's just like food for thought. Also, he had kind of a rough childhood and upbringing. I don't remember if his life was, if they're abusive. I think he was just more poor and struggling, so he grew up kind of in the street life. Let's look at their charts. So he pled not guilty, and he had the famous story of like, oh, the glove doesn't fit, so they must have quit. He got this famous lawyer, and honestly it became a racial issue in the media because the media picked up the story because he was such a famous person, and it was an interracial relationship. So it became this political thing that blacks don't get fair treatment in the justice system. And while that is completely true, I don't believe this murder had anything to do with race. It was just a murder. So, and I don't think he was targeted. I think he really did it. So he wrote a book about it. I mean, come on. So he was acquitted in the first trial. They had a lot of evidence against him, but just because of the media buzz, and the lawyers were very smart, and they turned it kind of into a racial issue, even though this was really about what happened to those people and the murder and whether he did it or not. So he got convicted in civil trial later. So I believe Nicole's family sued him and took him to like civil trial over it because they were so convinced that he was involved. And I mean, she had a safety deposit box about like he was going to kill her. He had threatened her life many times. Again, they had like a loving relationship, but some kind of, you know, domestic abuse going on there. So let's look at their natal charts and how just like the story behind his personality, her personality, and how this might have happened. I'm not justifying any of the actions or killing or anything, but what I want to talk about is his natal chart and just get into a little bit of maybe why. So, okay, like I said, Ojo is a Cancer. He actually has a stellium in Cancer. I think this is very significant because Cancers, in my opinion, are super loyal, super loving, but once you cross them, they are scary. And so because his sun, which just magnifies, and his Venus, so his love, like who he falls in love with, his love life, he takes that very, 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 very seriously, and they can be very possessive. Obviously, like, he was attractive, he was famous, he was likable, charming, and all that. So that goes along with, like, Cancers are very jovial and just happy people. They like to make people laugh. But again, they have a dark side. I mean, we all do, but I've noticed that Cancer can be very, like, manipulative and vengeful. So I can see him getting into the mentality of, like, if I can't have her, no one can kind of thing, because I think he was still in love with her. He just couldn't get past whatever issues were causing him to be violent with her. His ascendant, also, I should mention, is a Leo, which I think is significant too. Obviously, that's sun energy, that's fire energy, that's like big in the spotlight kind of energy. So he was likable, he was noticed, he definitely loved the spotlight, he loved the attention, he liked being famous. So his Cancer, Venus, and Mercury are together. So it's like his communication might have been vindictive, and I don't know, to me, just the Venus in Cancer is like a super good quality, but also I can see that going negatively. So with his ascendant, Saturn, and Pluto, I'm seeing this as like taking a public downfall, or like he's going to struggle with his dark side coming out with Saturn here, conjuncting the ascendant in Pluto. In Leo, it's going to be like a public thing that he's going to have to go through, which makes a lot of sense because he was on trial for murder and later convicted, and he was super famous. So that to me kind of just like talks about during his life, to me, like the downfall of his notoriety or what he was known for. That's all I really want to say about Leo. A Mars in Gemini and a Uranus in Gemini, and what was his North Node? Hold on. And North Node in Taurus and Gemini. Okay, so North Node is kind of like your eternal path, like what you're meant to follow in life, who you're meant to be, and what you're supposed to go towards. Mars energy is action, determination, sexual energy, and passions. Crossing Uranus, which is like changes, upheavals, transitions, that kind of thing. So it can be chaotic energy too. So it's like it makes sense because he was accused of cheating a lot in the relationship. I think she did too, I'm not sure, or might have just been rumored, but he had many affairs. So Gemini and Mars is not always like someone who cheats, but their nature likes variety and gets bored in the bedroom and has a strong sex drive. So I don't know, with the North Node crossing that, it's like they're gonna follow that path. And then just what I think his notoriety, it was probably hard for him to stay away from potential offers and that kind of thing. Also, I want to talk about his moon is in Pisces. So I think moon in Pisces is a great placement. I enjoy water placements. So the moon is like your feelings, your internal world, and as a Pisces, he's very wise. He was very intuitive, so he probably picked up on a lot of things that Nicole didn't tell him, and I can see there being a lot of jealousy there. Pisces to me are similar to Cancer. When they're good, they're super good. When they're bad, they're super scary. And Cancer is vindictive. Pisces is just scary. So Pisces moon, when crossed, I can see being very vengeful and overreacting and taking things way too far. So he has a Jupiter in Scorpio. This I think is significant because it's like Jupiter amplifies any kind of energy, and so that being in Scorpio can be very loving and compassionate and humanitarian in life, but on the negative side can be psychotic and I don't want to say like a murderer, but he murdered. So it can go there if it's like super devolved, or like he might have had trauma, like literal maybe physical head trauma, I'm not sure. Okay, so that's a little bit about OJ, and I want to talk about how this kind of relates to Nicole. So let's just start from the bottom. Her sun's in Taurus, which is Venus, and it's about beauty and it's about attraction, and she's a very beautiful woman. So that's crossing her Mercury and her Lilith, which is interesting. So it's like almost like her beauty got her into trouble with her Lilith, and also she kind of liked to defy normal beauty standards in certain ways. They said her personality was very playful and she almost acted out and was a little rebellious. So I think it's like the dynamic I got was kind of like when he would cheat or do stuff, she would cheat back, or it was kind of that kind of thing. Also her Mercury is in Taurus, so she's very good with communication. She's very like confident and steady and tells her like it is, and ruled by Venus, she has an attractive way, like she can charm people with her words, and it matches her sun energy, so she comes across as authentic. Like the way she talks matches how you would imagine her, so people accept her generally because they feel like she is who she says she is, kind of thing. But conjuncting Lilith, it's either like she might just use that in negative ways, or it could also be like she might defy that in some way, like maybe like saying things that are controversial or trying to stir up tension, maybe having fun with that kind of thing once in a while. Her moon is in Libra, and it's also conjuncting her north node. So that to me is significant. I mean, she was very like even keel. She could handle his temperaments. Libras are very like people pleasing. They want to make their partners happy. So I can see with her north node conjuncting that, she would always forgive him. She would always come back to him. That's the vibe I kind of get out of that, and that was kind of their story, from what I understood. I think she even like lied for him and like covered up things that he would do. I feel like I'm shedding. Anyway, it's so hot here. I let my hair dry, so it's a little crazy. So that to me is just like kind of shows why she was more like docile towards him, and why she probably took some of the physical abuse and maybe verbal abuse and didn't leave. Well, she did leave, but it sounds like he didn't let her go and still stalked her for 2 years before he killed her. So also notably, so her Pisces moon, her Libra moon, and he has a Pisces moon. So those are kind of clashing, so I can see them like hurting each other's feelings or not quite understanding each other, so that probably led to a lot of arguments that were unintentional. Okay, but her Venus and Mars is Cancer. So in my opinion, your Venus is kind of like your love symbol, your Mars is kind of your sex symbol. So in relationships, if those two conjunct and it's someone else's sun sign, like he has a lot of Cancer placements, I can see why she was so attracted to him. It's like she would naturally fall for a Cancer personality, and she would also be super physically attracted to Cancers, and he had a lot of Cancer placements. So there was a lot of like meshing there. Oh, they both have Venus and Cancer, so they understood, they both loved each other, which I said before. They really did, but it was just like a tragic love story kind of thing. Anyway, so then you have her Chiron in Aquarius, which just means to me that it's like she would love like new things. She would love trying new things. She would love being different in some way. So she fit into that kind of box. She didn't like being like the typical, where do they live? Like, I don't know if it was Hollywood or Bel Air. They lived in like a nice area of California, basically a super rich area. But I don't know, she liked to defy like the standards in some way and not be like a basic. So yeah, Saturn in Capricorn. Okay, so this is a good placement actually. It means she'll be good with money. She can attract wealth in her life. She might go through ups and downs with money or learn some lessons in that way, but it can be a very favorable placement. So I think they were kind of like a power couple. She was good with handling money, and so was he. She might be prone to spending money, but I bet you so was he. So they kind of had like a lavish lifestyle. So what are these? Okay, let me see which across their charts conjunct, that thing. I don't know how they played into each other. So Cancer is like a big thing because there were so many crossovers. She also had, is that Jupiter and Neptune in Scorpio? No, okay, that's Leo. Oh shoot, Jupiter and Neptune in Scorpio. Okay, didn't he have Jupiter in Scorpio too? They both did. This placement is just prone to violence, I feel like, because I'm not saying like Scorpios are violent, but just when it goes bad, it can go bad. So they have a lot of angst in them. They have a lot of like revenge kind of energy. So yeah, I can see this like building up into something toxic and explosive. If he's trying to get back at her, she's trying to get back at him. They're so in love, but they can't be faithful. It's kind of this tumultuous relationship, so I can see that devolving into what happened. I mean, she tried to leave him. She did. She got divorced 2 years before this happened. So it is really sad, and I think he just couldn't handle watching her move on. Yeah. So instead of trying to get her back, he killed her. So is that also her ascendant's in Pisces? Okay. Oh, I didn't see that before. It is. Okay. So his ascendant was in Leo. Her ascendant is in Pisces, which I feel like is just very dreamy. Looks kind of otherworldly. Comes across as like traveled and smart. They're usually like just petite in some kind of way. So what were his Pisces placements? His moon's in Pisces. So I can see that meshing well. Like he's just going to be naturally attracted and feel comfortable around Pisces energy. And she's a true Pisces as being a Pisces ascendant. So that definitely like fit the bill for him. Again, I think this was just a case of like snapping, jealousy, that kind of thing. With the Mars and Gemini, it can be like chaotic energy. It can be unpredictable energy. I think what probably got to him was literally all his Cancer placements, and I hate to say it, but like I think it just exaggerated the situation with his Sun, Mercury, and Venus in Cancer, because it was like he probably couldn't express himself. He was so in love with her, he couldn't fix it, so it just led to this like combustible energy, and he exploded. I think it could also be contributed, like I said, to head injuries. If you haven't seen the movie Concussion, it's super good, and it's about a real disease and problems with American football. So no hate on American football, but it is what it is. Like, people got hurt, and it's like a perfect storm kind of situation. It just, she was beautiful, she attracted money, she looked wealthy, she just fit his kind of vibes. I think he was so in love with her, she was in love with him, but he got kind of possessive because of some of his placements. He wasn't prone to being faithful, and then the perfect storm of him being so famous, I think he just struggled with it. Some of their placements clash to the point where they can be headstrong and fight and take it a little too far. So his Jupiter in Scorpio, her Jupiter in Scorpio, their moons kind of clashing, him being a water sign, her being an air sign. Those energies don't normally mesh very well. But anyways, and then his North Node directing him towards, temptation and trouble. And then, where's her North Node? Her North Node was Libra, so she wanted to follow her heart. She wanted to find balance. I think when she realized like things weren't getting better, she left him, and then sadly it just still didn't help. I think he felt public shame after the divorce, and this might have fueled some of his rage because his ascendant was in Leo, so he's very proud. I think it was hard to watch her walk away. He had some level of disassociation, I feel like. He showed up to her funeral. He went through the whole trial pretending to be innocent. I don't know, this was like a tragic story of like fatal attraction. I think they really were in love, but there was literally something off about his brain and he couldn't function, and I think she was just stubborn and, as a Taurus, and not the kind of woman that wants to be controlled with her Pisces ascendant, so she wasn't having it. And when she finally got sick and left him, I think he couldn't handle it, got too obsessed, and killed her. And sadly, I don't know if she was actually dating Ron or they were just friends, but he was literally just in the way. So I don't know if anyone really knows if he planned to kill Ron. I haven't read his book, so I don't know if he talked about that or not. Yeah. So anyway, that's the story of O.J. Simpson and Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I've been wanting to do this video forever, but again, like I said, I was nervous because it's such a big case. I wasn't sure how I was going to cover it, what I was going to talk about, what I was going to leave out, because it's actually a super in-depth case, and you should watch videos or documentaries about it because it is really interesting. He later, in 2007, was involved in a kidnapping and robbery in Las Vegas that it had something to do with some of his like football paraphernalia or something like that, so he believed it was like his property. I don't know, it was a weird story, but I think he held someone at like gunpoint. Yeah, so he got convicted way later for like a robbery, but he did time in jail for that. So yeah, after she died, his life did go kind of downhill. I don't know if he struggled with alcoholism or if I just channeled that, but he struggled with drugs or alcoholism. He kind of just like got into stupid stuff like robbing people, and eventually ended up in prison. So it's just like a sad story. I don't know what to think, honestly, because she did talk to her friends about being very much in love with him. They had a family, they had children. He talked about, I think it was so easy for him to deny it because he really was in love with her, so I think he could disassociate in his head and be like, no, I couldn't do it, I love her too much. So I think he did really like regret it, and he did love her, but I don't know if it was head injuries or just rage, but something in it made him snap, and that's what happened. So let me know what you guys think. Comment down below. Tell me if you've heard about this case. Tell me if you've seen other videos in this case. Tell me if I got any facts wrong, because, you know, my research isn't always perfect. Let me know if you agree with me on the astrology points and maybe what caused this to happen. And hit up my email if you guys want a reading. You can book on my website. Also check out my shop. I'm going to load these. So I made some just crystal bracelets and necklaces, and you can do these in different heights. But anyway, I'm doing these in pink opal, which is this like really pale pink color, and I'm also doing it in a light amazonite. So check those out. I'm going to load those soon. If you're interested, they'll be affordable. And thank you guys for stopping by. Thank you for giving my channel some love. Consider subscribing. I'd appreciate it. I'd love to see more of you. And